Hey guys, I hope everything's going well today and you're enjoying this beautiful spring weather. Today it got up to I think almost 50 degrees where we are, and I wanted to take this opportunity to finish getting the rest of these bare roots in the ground. In our last video we were doing planting the Palatine bare roots in the raised boxes, which is much easier than digging them in the ground. You're dealing with loose topsoil. You can just use your hands really to move the soil out of the way. So if you're looking for an easy solution, check out that video because I think that's a great way to ease your burden a little bit. Now if you're ready to put them in the ground, that's what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of conflicting information out there, and I've always gone under the guidance that your bare roots need to soak for 24 hours. As soon as you get them, you unpack them, put them in water, and let them soak. But then I've seen a lot of guidance where they say no longer than 48 hours, or soak them for 1 to 2 hours. And I was thinking about it today, and I thought, what if I want to soak them much longer? Like, I forget about them and they're in the garage for 3 months in water. So I started doing some research out there, and I'm telling you, there's so much information where people have said, I forgot about them and they were in water for 5 months and they were fine, or I left them for a week. Now, it's not recommended, but I only share that information because I don't want you to get too fixated on those bare roots when they come. If you can't get them in for a week and you just want to leave them in water, I think you're going to be fine. In an ideal world, my recommendation would be let them soak for 24 hours. If you can't get them in the ground, go ahead and put them in a pot. So just don't stress too much about that number. And the other thing I want to share with you, as I was preparing for this video, I thought, what is the ideal depth for planting your bare roots? And I want to share with you all of the literature that I read on bare roots, and I want to share it with you really quick. I've done the cliff notes for you. You're welcome. David Austin, their handbook for 2021 says you should be planting 16 inches by 16 inches. If it is a potted, it's in a pot versus bare root, now you only need to do 8 inches by 8 inches. Well, that boggles my mind because I'm thinking I need to have a standard 16 inches by 16 inches. So here in this ortho guide, it says 18 to 24 inches if you're going to dig your bare roots. So they have a specific there that they want you to dig to. So this is the Ultimate Rose book, and it says a hole big enough to not bend the roots. Okay, so then you've got this David Austin book and this are the same, and they said just cover the bud union and no depth is provided. So as a reminder, let's go through looking at a rose real quick. If you have your canes, and this is called the bud union or the crown here, and now your roots. So if it says, if your literature is saying just cover that bud union, we kind of talked about that yesterday, you want to make sure that you're covering your soil up to here. I'm going to put up on the screen some of the next literature that I also read where it talks about if you're in really severe inclement weather, you're going to want to make sure that you cover 1.25 inches up of soil on the roots. If you're not in as severe of an environment where it only gets down to maybe 10 degrees during your winter, you only need to cover up to this crown here. And in the event that it has a longer neck, in a very mild environment, you can even go lower. So I'm going to put that up there for you. Let's continue going through here. This book here says just make sure that you cover that bud union by 1 1/4 inch and get it underground. No depth is listed. This one here says, this one I really enjoyed. This one says, if the roots are too long for the hole that you're digging, go ahead and trim down the roots. They only need to be 8 to 10 inches long. And if you get a crazy root that's 14 inches or longer, go ahead and cut it. And I know I can hear all of the rosarians on the line right now just wincing and saying, oh my gosh, no, don't cut the roots. I've done it before and my roses have been fine. So if you have a really rogue root that is really long and you have to cut it because you can't dig several feet down, I think you'll be fine. All of the guidance that I'm pulling together here really is what it's saying is give the roots enough room. Although a standard is provided in David Austin and some of the other books, I think what it really comes down to is making sure that you have a couple of inches around that root for it to stretch, and you don't want to bend the roots at all. Last one here, it says have that bud union just below the ground. So I think what it really comes down to is you need to choose what works for you and your environment. And if you're new to gardening and roses, roses are very resilient. You've picked a great plant to start with. So now that we've gone, oh, and one more thing. Let's see, with Palatine, which I think is actually the best guidance. This came with my roots yesterday, and they give several different measurements. It says, for most roses, holes should be 2 to 3 feet apart. We talked about that yesterday. A spacing of 5 to 6 feet apart applies to old garden and climbing roses. Place your plants into the hole with the bud union 1 to 2 inches below ground level unless you're in a colder area, and then plant 2 to 3 inches below ground level. So remember how we just talked about you're going to go deeper on these canes if you're in a very cold climate. I'm not here. So for me, I'm just really going to be worried about, covering up this bud union. It says spread out the roots and fill in the soil 2/3 back and pack well. So Palatine, you've done a great job making sure that everybody, I believe, has the most comprehensive information from all of these books. The only other thing that I made from a note from yesterday is that I forgot to say was these roses from Palatine, they were a special that they offered for some of the off-patent roses that they had the ability to produce again. These are grade 2. Typically when you buy from Palatine, if you just go to their website right now, all they're offering on the website, if you click on a rose, is grade 1, which means much larger, stronger canes, thicker canes. I had the opportunity through this sale in January when they had it up on the website. They had a very limited number of grade 2, and it was less expensive. And I thought, I know the quality of Palatine roses. These are gonna take off no matter whether I buy a grade 2 or a grade 1 rose. So I just wanted you to be aware, when you get your roses from Palatine, they're gonna be even bigger than these. And I'm happy with these. I think they're awesome. So I just wanted to share that. And in the event that you're interested in ordering from Palatine, there is a frenzy. They open usually their shipment in September, the first week in September, I think, and it's open. And on that day, you'll see all of the roses are available. You can do your research up to a week beforehand. If you go to their website now, you may see that they're sold out, but rest assured, they'll be back available again in the beginning of September. And just make sure that on that date, you put on your calendar to order from the site so that you can get the roses that you're looking at. So I've got my shovel, my biotone, my tags. I've got a container to put my soil in. Let's go ahead and start planting. As you'll see, I've got my roses all the way down. They're about 18 inches apart, 18 to 24. And so I've measured where the next rose is gonna go. So I'm gonna dig, and let me look real quick at my roots so that I can plan how large I'm going to go down. They don't want you to crimp your roses or constrict them, the roots, but I think that this would be okay down here if I dig a hole that's about to here. I think that that would be fine. So I'm gonna say that it's gonna be about 16 inches wide by 10 to 14 inches deep, but let me go ahead, dig it, and then I'll put this in the ground and see if it needs to go any deeper. But that gives me an idea of how far I need to go down. One of the joys of living on the water is that as you're digging, we find shells. So over the years, the birds decide to eat something and then just drop their shells. That's always a joy when you find them. Okay. So what we're going to do here is when I'm putting this in the hole, I don't see that any of the roots are restricted by this. And what you're also going to look at now is bring your shovel over, sit it on the soil like this, and you're going to look at that bud union. And so let me put it on this side so you can see it a little bit better. So if I'm sitting the rose just in the center, I'm up exactly where I want to be on, so that the soil comes up to these roots. When I look at my soil, to me, as I'm getting deeper, it's clay. So roses love clay, at least in my experience, but if you have gypsum, you go ahead and throw gypsum in here now. Also, I usually take gypsum and broadcast spread it twice a year, so I'll deal with that in the next go round. So I'm going to throw my biotone here, two handfuls, put the rose in and look for whatever looks good to me. Isn't this fun? I look and I see the it coming to life from dormancy. I see the pink on the buds coming out. That is just so exciting to me to know that this is going to be leafed out in maybe a week and a half. Isn't that fun? All right, so I'm going to sit this back in here, and if you look at the anatomy of the rose, see how it's got this area here? You want to make sure that when you put this in the ground, that you focus on getting the soil underneath here. So sometimes they'll say, build a crown in the center of where the roots are going, so that it just sits on top of that mound of soil. But I usually just try to pay particular attention on filling that, backfilling the center of the rose. So I'm going to backfill it, and now I'm going to try to really get the soil down in the center of it. Okay, break up any clay there. We'll put this in here. Keep breaking up any clay that you have with your hands. Okay, so I've got all this backfilled now. Tamp it down with your hands so that it's firmly in place. Get that label out there so if I need to look at it later, I can. And here's my label. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So I hope that today's video was helpful, and I'll plan on seeing you in the next video. Thanks.